So, hello, guys. Welcome to our little discussion on the sound of music. Let's go around real quick and just say what our names and our roles are. Jorge, let's start with you.
I am Jorge Bermudez. Some people call me George. You can call me either. But I am blessed and privileged to be the director of the show.
Okay.
Cool. And I'm Matt Whalen. I am playing Captain Von Trapp.
And I'm Katherine Damisch, and I am playing Maria. So thank you all for joining me today. Jorge, let's start with you. So the way that this whole conversation kind of came about was you and I went to ice cream after opening weekend, and you made the astute observation that every show that ever gets produced, someone on the internet is like, "This is not to be missed," and you're like, "No, this really isn't. This really is not to be missed." But how do we tell people that this is not to be missed? But what is it about your vision that truly makes this not to be missed?
What you both know that at the beginning of this process, I've long talked about how I had seen two productions of The Sound of Music. So for anyone who's listening to this, I had seen two productions of The Sound of Music, one in the 90s and one 5 to 10 years ago, somewhere around there. And neither of them, unfortunately, turned me into fans of this show. I had not been a fan of this show previous to this. And I think that it's one of our jobs is to try and turn the audience, into fans of this show. And one of it is that one of the inherent problems is just that today's audiences, our attention span, our collective attention spans are just much shorter than they were. Then you have a really long show. Then you have a really, really long show, which was a tall ask anyway, even 30 years ago, but it's incredibly, even more so today. And then when I saw those two productions, I don't believe, and here's where I'm trying to put it all together, I don't believe that they had a point of view. So I believe that one of the biggest goals that any director should have, or at least someone who is being mindful of an audience that has a shorter attention span, with the challenge of a really long show, must have a point of view. And Matt and I talked about how, and the three of us, talked about how I wanted this point of view to be told through the captain's eyes.
Totally. And
that's not to say that we were going to ignore Maria. I mean, the story is told about, it's Maria's story, and the narrative is there, and you certainly are going to hear about Maria's the romantic plot with Maria, and you certainly are still going to understand or be told about Maria's choices, and you're certainly going to still watch Maria fall in love with Trapp, but you have to understand why. You can't just be told why. You have to understand and and feel, and you have to root for her and all of that. And for me to be okay with all of that, if I were to put myself in the audience's shoes, I would have to understand why she would choose Captain Von Trapp. And the two productions that I saw, I couldn't understand why she chose Captain Von Trapp. There's only one line that says, "Oh, that's the way that he is, the way that he is." But it's just one line. So you have an opportunity for 2 hours to demonstrate to the audience why she would fall in love with this man. And so I set out to put together a production that still makes you root for Maria and says, yes, we love Maria and we totally understand why she's choosing Captain Von Trapp, but now we understand why she's choosing Von Trapp and we support that decision.
And that's why you cast me, obviously. So.
But Matt, I do want to ask you that question because, as Jorge just mentioned, Captain is the emotional cornerstone of the show. It's really his character arc that makes everything click, basically. How does that work in terms of your interpretation of the show and of the character?
I honestly, I played Captain in 2000, and I showed Katherine some videos of that. It was not good. I mean, it was perfect for what it was, but
it's adorable.
We're young though, right?
Young. I was 18, so sure. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I, as I kind of talk about how, the pain and things that he goes through. Like if you have a life and you experience things, it you don't use it, but it informs you on how to understand another person, and what they're going through and what things might feel like. And I told my friend that. He said something to the effect of like, we act when we're young because we want to learn more about what it is to be a person, then you live it and you really kind of know that. So I don't know, I just when I heard you say that, I'm like, oh, okay, so it's because any of the, poor behavior or, you know being mean or things like that, it's not because he's a bad person, it's because he's in pain. And so it's like, and I think anyone can relate to that when you're not when you're not at your best self, you're not your best version of yourself. And so it's, I think I just connect to that a lot, where it's like, you know you think about, like, he won't have music. It's like music is such an important thing in his life, where him not having it is pretty much doing the opposite of what you should do as a person to be healthy. Like, you shouldn't just shut things out. You should face them, as Maria says later and Mother Abbess says later. But I think I just understood that perspective of, it's not that he's bad. It's that he's not able to deal with the emotions that he's been handed. He's been handed a really hard life right now, and so he reverts into, what are you good at? You're good at being a leader. You're good at being military. Like, you have these kids that you don't know and you can't control. Get them to stand at attention. Like, I think that's kind of what I learned, and it's also, I think there's much more to it, but I think that's kind of where I started from.
Yeah, because I feel like Katherine is the kind of character where you can go at it from a number of angles. You can go at it from the strictly the military man. You can go at it from strictly the aristocrat. And there's your kind of third way that goes more from the emotional perspective.
Yeah, I think I'm someone who just, it's easiest for me to, as we kind of talked about what it's like your process, I like to work out inside out. As far as acting goes, I like to really find the emotion, the heart of the character. And then if there's anything to like layer on as far as like behaviors and things like that, that comes later for me. Everyone's different.
Can you make an argument for then some people, you found this role at the right time in your life, right? I mean, it's obviously a lot more meaningful. There's an argument to be said that sometimes people don't realize that maybe it's not the right time to play a certain role.
I've been kind of playfully told, well, you don't have to wear old age makeup in this time. So, I mean, I'm the right age for the part, sort of. So and I have the life experience a little bit, so, but it's,
well, to put those points together, what is so incredible for me to watch then is your layered portrayal, because as I watch how compelling you are, then Katherine reacting to you as Maria, I completely then am on the ride with her for every reaction that she gives, which then is the other half of it, right? You are expected to be on the ride with Maria. That's what you pay to see. Everyone expects that. That's Maria's story, and she's going to be looking at Von Trapp. She's going to be singing these songs about Do Re Mi and all these kinds of things. I mean, that's what you expect. But to look at a Von Trapp who is not layered, then you just kind of, at least for me, I kind of fell flat in those two other productions. And I was kind of like, okay, but I don't get it. I don't understand. I hear that she's falling in love with him. I know I'm supposed to understand. I know I'm supposed to feel, but I don't. And that's what you are so important.
Well, I think it's also a matter of, they always say in writing, show, don't tell. And I think that's really important for theater as well. I don't think in our version, Captain Maria just fall in love all at once. I think there are moments, without giving too much away, but I think there are moments that build upon each other, that we show that the progression of that relationship until it all, the house of cards comes tumbling down in Act 2.
No, you're absolutely right. So I'm not sure how to explain that. Because that's exactly what I mean. There's not one real way to say that why we're different. It's a slow but steady and deliberate difference.
Yeah. I think the word I would use that it's earned.
That's such a good word.
You have to earn the pauses. You have to earn, you have to earn the right to sing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the song comes because speaking isn't enough. You have to earn that right to sing. And that's the thing too, is like, you can't have a scene of a bunch of pauses that mean nothing. It's like, you can't milk it. Like you have to have the pacing so that when the pauses do come, it's not, they're pausing again. But no, I think everyone in the show does a really good job at keeping that going.
There's one of you looks at a guitar. There's one of you that stares at a whistle. There's the portrait. There's the reminder of a daughter. There's the music. There is the fact that, someone taught the kids to sing. There is the long look at a dress. There is the staring off when someone leaves the room that we purposely did.
Mm-hmm.
That is meaningful and that actually communicates something while they're staring off at the person who's exiting the room. Yeah, all of those things, all of those moments are just so choice.
Yeah.
Just so amazing to watch.
And a lot of those moments really live in the unspoken. It's things that are not in the script that are implied that I think the three of us have really brought to life.
Yeah. So how can you decide? So I wish that we could come up with a word. Maybe it's
I think it's very much a sentence. It's like, this is a show where we have put thought into that stuff. Like we've put thought, we've earned the right to tell the story because we read through the lines. We had these conversations a lot where it's like we're telling the story that we're passionate about, that we see is really good writing. And so basically, like, we earn the right to tell a story because, and you should see it because it's been very well thought out.
Yes.
It's not a music, go on stage, go sing, figure it out. Like every moment.
It's all the things that it's all the familiar story beats, it's all the familiar songs, it's the nostalgic costumes and settings and orchestrations that you might know. But I think our version also really delves into the emotional beats of it more than other versions might care to.
Something I've talked about, and I don't even know if this was even something you had planned, Jorge, but it works beautifully, where the first act of the show is so what everyone comes to see and expect. You got the do-re-mi, you got the favorite things, you got the goat herd. It's almost like comforting to be an audience member just from watching it. It's like, oh, the orchestra, it's like the kids are joyful, it's energetic, it's everything that you think of Sound of Music. And it's all there. So it's like, not like we're being edgy in those scenes. It's the classic musical. But at the second act, if you've just seen the movie, we talked about this a lot, where it gets really serious and we go there.
I think it kind of goes back to that verb of that we earn it. We earn the audience trust by doing these songs and these scenes that everyone knows properly, I guess, and in the way that they expect. And then in Act 2, that's where the meat of the story gets in. That's where the meat of the relationship and the meat of the politics and the climax of the show, that's where all that stuff really comes to play, because we built that foundation in Act 1.
I'll read this. So I knew we had a tall order. We have a 2.5 hour running time. We have the shortest attention spans we've ever had. We do not have large company numbers. We do not have high octane dance sequences. We do not have the often pedestalized movie version. Mm-hmm. We are working against premeditated ideas of how the show should be. We have COVID, and I did not know if I'd have any on audition. We have a show done many times before, and there needs to be a reason why people would want to see this one besides I know someone in it. So you have a goal in mind, and that is it was going to make every character have a point of view towards the story and a reason for being there. And put in an example, a song like Maria usually has how do you solve a problem like Maria usually has a little movement. The nuns are in a line holding their hands out to God, asking the question, how do you solve a problem like Maria? That's okay, and can certainly be done, and you get by with the lyrics providing the necessary narrative, but there's no meat, there's no hook, and there's no reason for me to want to watch this. There are 4 characters in that scene, and there's textual support for each of them to have a point of view towards Maria. One of them is completely against Maria. Her asking the question, how do you solve a problem like Maria, is completely informed by her total frustration of Maria. Now, that song is flavored by all her choices, informed by that point of view. The lyrics are still asking you, how do you solve a problem like Maria? But the actress' choices are so interesting to watch and coupled by the movement, and you have made it a recipe for a much more fascinating sound to watch on stage. Last but not least, you multiply that with 3 additional characters in the scene, and you have kicked off the show and created some momentum with a point of view that gets people thinking and their juices flowing.
Yeah.
Now, if you apply that exact same process to every character and every song on stage, and you put all those moments together, you hopefully end up with a production that accomplishes what you set out to do, and that is to have them keep wanting to watch and actually enjoy and be moved by it. So I don't know if that's helpful, but
Yeah, how very artistic and yet scientific at the same time. That's really cool that you went through that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the kind of number and indeed the kind of show where you could watch any one member of the cast on stage and see something different. I mean, you could watch this show, I think this production of the show, dozens of times and notice new things every single time. You'd see each person's perspective, each person's reactions, different things. Maybe they're the same, maybe they're a little bit different. I mean, it's just fascinating.
That is something that has frustrated me with the other productions, is that there usually are the nuns just in a line, and they let the lyrics, how do you solve a problem like Maria, but they are usually just standing in a line and that's it. But they don't have any concept of how the movement accentuates their plight. And to me, you really do have opportunities to have 3 different characters in there, especially when one of them, Maria, makes them laugh. The other clearly is frustrated by her. Because if it was just one point of view, if it was just the congregation's point of view, then you'd have a solo, wouldn't you? I mean, you just have one person asking, how do you solve a problem like Maria? It's just a religious question. How do you solve a problem like her? And you're done. But no, you have 3 different points of view. So why don't people make that interesting or whatever? I mean, I just don't get that, but that's what's happened. That song, it exemplifies exactly what I think is our unique approach to the entire show. It layered each character has a point of view towards Maria, even though this particular song doesn't have anything to do with Von Trapp per se, but it has a point of view towards Maria, and it shows how not any character and no character is secondary.
Yeah,
everything is important to the story.
Right.
Maybe that's what it is. Everything is important to the story. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.